10 drivers with a stage set ahead of them for a Bundren Lawn Care Series championship, and it continues from the only road course to take focus this week. And we welcome you to live coverage of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Charlotte Roval right here on the KBueno Racing Network in Concord, North Carolina. My name is Kenneth Bueno with Charlie Baier in the booth for what will be the first time these drivers go left and right from a venue that we last saw providing some 1.5 mile action, now giving a brand new look in a road course this evening.
Yeah, this is a really big change for these drivers, especially, typically you'd be going to a road course such as, Sonoma or Watkins Glen, but this is a whole nother beast. This track is a lot tighter, and just like you saw right there, people are going to be diving into that turn one way too hard, and it's going to be a lot of action all around the track tonight. But I can't wait. This is one of my favorite tracks to race and to watch, it's going to be a good time, I think.
And we apologize for some of the technical difficulties we had just trying to get the stream up and get everything up and running. But luckily, we have this up and running now, so we're going to continue this and try to get everything, as much as everything as we can before we get gridding here, as qualifying is just about to wrap up. But this race marks the second one of the first round of these iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series playoffs. And last week really showed us how much things can change in one race, and that is of course with the point standings, which will be shown right in the middle of your screen, show where everybody is at. And Blaze McKinney currently leads your point standings right now. Parker White into second, Glenn Bundren third, fourth place Keelan Belsha, fifth place Ezekiel Reyes and James Hill, Nick Miller, and then 8th, 9th, 10th, Hartman, Tabor, Preston Cope. It's the battle to reach back into this top 7 to advance to round 2, but only 11 points max, with the farthest gap to 7th place, Nick Miller. And that's something we're going to be watching for over the course of the evening as we get this race underway. So qualifying is just about finalized. We're going to try and talk about a little bit more things and try to have some more time to discuss about what this race will be like in terms of, the playoff situation and how a bunch of drivers will be trying to scramble their way through this road course. So difficult around this racetrack. So 2.28 miles around this Roval. There's 17 turns. And although this track hasn't been around too long, it has brought a lot of fun racing. And I know, Charlie, you've experienced it firsthand as a driver racing this track. And it really is a handful of things that play to having a great race behind this wheel. Charlie, I want to ask, what kind of factors matter into this race that'll really affect it more than a lot of the others we've seen so far this season?
Yeah, I think really the biggest factor here is throttle control, because you really want to do your best. It's such a tight track, and you want to fire off on those corners really hard, but these Cup cars just have so little downforce and so little grip on these Goodyear tires. You really want to manage your throttle and just try not to just spin your tires out for the corner. That's really all I can give tips to these drivers. So, we're going to start to see people try to fire it off the backstretch chicane, and the back end's going to try to step out on them, and it just won't go well. We've seen it in real life as well, but we're also going to see it in the sim today. So that's just what these guys are going to have to deal with.
So as the field is gridding right there on the front stretch chicane, one of the more harder corners on this racetrack, going to look at your starting grid, see where everybody starts. And of course, up front is the 36 Aleem Shee, made his last start at Homestead Miami Speedway. Glad to see him returning to the racetrack. He's set at 119.153. Gets the pole for tonight's action. Alongside him, SPG driver, one of the drivers needing for points in the bubble. That's Nick Miller.
And right behind him in the second row, inside road course ringer, Brody Garner in that 55 Dogecoin car starting third, and Dylan Basin in that number 48 car starts fourth.
And back to row 3 is the 42 of Cole Williams, who we saw finish second in the Sonoma race of the LWC NASCAR Cup Series earlier today. And right to his outside, another driver needing a good run, currently second right now. That's Parker White.
Right behind them, once again, two road ringers, Joe Bergen, number 83 car, starting 7th, and to his outside, Sartaj Maj, driving for SPG Evo SimSport, will round out the top 8.
Then to row 5 is Aaron Marooney Jr., who's making another start here, trying to show out amongst these guys here. And right to his outside, the league owner himself and former champion Glenn Bundren in the playoffs, needing for a good run here tonight. He starts in 10th.
Right behind them, right outside your top 5, the number 8 of Aiden Kirker. Took the win earlier today at Sonoma in the LWRC Cup Series on the KBueno Racing Network. And to his outside, JJ Hill in that number 08 car. Practiced a lot for this race and sure to put out a good performance here.
Then to row 7, there's Mitch Hobbs, who unfortunately got wrecked out at the Chicago race last week. And right to his outside, the 014 Nicole Woody, who's been close to a checkered flag a handful of times in this series ever since he started in this series. Pretty much, He starts into 14th. You're going to look at the rest of the field as they scrabble through, and all the drivers starting for tonight's event on the 17-turn road course. And you're seeing these drivers now transferring onto the oval section, which is really one of the more unique parts of this racetrack. It kind of compares to a smaller Daytona, if you will, as opposed to some of the other road courses we see on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. And it really brings a new flair to what we have seen over the course of this season. And we've been to Charlotte before, so we know what it's like to race on the oval, but now the road course is just a whole different beast.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I'm looking at this top 5 here, top 10 really. I'm seeing a lot of those guys who are really known for doing really well in road courses. You see Liam Sheen there, Brody Garner, Parker White, Joe Burgess, Sartosh Manel, Marooney, all those guys who race a lot of GT3s, GTEs, those kind of IMSA series, and other sports cars. They're up there, and I would expect them to be out there throughout the entire race. So you see this backstretch chicane, you have a 90-degree turn, and then about a 70-degree turn the other way back onto the pavement. This was added to slow the cars down so they don't go too high into turn number 1. They also did a front stretch chicane, which we're going to see that as well. So yeah, lots of additions to the racetrack. Debuted in 2018 with a fantastic finish between Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. That was a finish for the ages. I know you're a Jimmy Johnson fan, so yeah, that was an exciting one for sure.
Kind of pushing the buttons a little bit there, but nonetheless, we're still getting this underway as the Porsche safety car will line itself onto pit road. Of course, the entrance just like the oval, but you see the field going to scramble to this front stretch chicane. That's where the green flag will be displayed for tonight's action. Liam Sheen, Nick Miller will lead them to green on a green flag here at the Charlotte Roval. We're playoff racing from the Roval. Back onto the oval section where Liam Sheen leads this field by a large margin. Took the lead already from the initial start. He now gaps the rest of this field. Brody Garner right behind him. Nick Miller falls to third on that initial start, but nonetheless still keeping his position as everyone scrambles through the backstretch chicane. You saw a couple drivers go off there. They're going to have to pay for their penalties. And as lots of things we're going to see there. We're going to see a lot of drivers overshooting, lots of drivers possibly having some trouble going into those chicanes. As you see the drivers now go through this front stretch chicane for the first time under speed. You see some drivers overshooting it just a little bit, trying to attack those curbs so much to get every bit of advantage they can. But currently, Liam Sheen out front, very large lead for him right now.
Safe and sound right now. He leads lap number 1, but Brody Garner's not letting him go just yet. He's just over a second behind, and this is one of the corners that's really tricky. You really want to get close to those curves, but you don't want to touch them because that'll send your car up into the air and to the outside wall. So that's a tricky one. You go up here and here. You go uphill here. You want to go outside to the outside there, and then lots of tire spin for that number 36 car. But you want to get really close to that wall, really close to this wall as well, so you get a good arc on the Roval exit, so you can carry your momentum. And one thing I didn't mention is that this track relies heavily on momentum, so you really want to take your corners easy while still maintaining a lot of speed. So Liam Sheen currently in the lead as of right now. Nick Miller currently sitting third.
Currently the highest running playoff driver right now. He is currently on the bubble for those playoffs. He's 7th right now in going into Charlotte after Chicago's race last week. And Nick Miller had a really promising run but did not get the finish he probably wanted out of Chicago. And tonight he's looking for a better run right now. Currently sitting in third, so very comfortable, but still a long way to go. Again, 40 laps in this event before we get this all said and done and travel all the way to Alabama and Talladega, where the first round of the playoffs will conclude. And we'll cut those 3 drivers, cutting the field down to 7 that'll run for the championship later this season. And then obviously going down and cutting down to 4 drivers that'll battle for the championship at Phoenix Raceway. But right now, you might be looking at a battle for the race lead in just a couple of corners. Brody Garner has caught up to that 36 dramatically over the course of these laps, and he has really put the pressure to that back bumper, and now he's going to try to get some more time in the 36, possibly contend for a race lead the first time for this race. Brody Garner has contended a couple times in this league, and he has been around some other leagues that I've been familiar with, and currently a very, very favorable driver on the road course side of things. So he is trying to maximize that to his advantage and make something out of this race here at the Roval tonight.
Yeah, really the goal here is you really want to outbrake your competitors, but you really have to be careful, because once again, if you try to fire off on this corner specifically, this is the first gear fire off of that backstretch chicane. You really got to be careful not to pop it dead sideways, as a YouTuber that we all watch would say. But to the inside, here comes Brody Garner. Will he make the move?
Trying so hard, and then overshoots. Both of them overshoot that chicane. They're going to have to slow down and give up some time in order to kind of get away from that penalty there, but that means Brody Garner will fall into the hands of Nick Miller. So they both missed the corner. So now Nick Miller is going to try to fight for second and try to gain some of those points that he desperately needs going into next week. He's going to easily make the pass, and not very, conventional there. And now you see Brody Garner trying to fend off as well. A little crossover there from the 55. He takes back second place. And like I was mentioning, this playoff picture is tense, especially going into this race where you're in a whole nother discipline of racing. You have to manage road course racing and not really rely so much on the ovals. Of course, you have a lot of ovals in this season. This is the only road course, but when you go to this track, it could mean a lot of things. And if you're a playoff driver, you desperately need a good run here, especially if you need some of those points. For example, Henry Tabor, Preston Cope, Jackson Hartman, those three drivers currently out of the picture if we conclude round one right now. And some other drivers to note that are playoff drivers right now: Blaze McKinney, currently 28th. He is your points leader as of right now, and he is one of the notable playoff drivers. He's got some damage on that race car. Not a good day for him so far, but again, lap 4, still early in this race. He still can gain some spots, maybe on the pit strategy, try something different in order to help his run right now. He was your winner last week at Chicago after beating Hunter Johnson by just a smidge on those fresh tires, and still we're looking at this race lead. It's kind of spread out between these top 3 and the rest of the field.
Yeah, but back here in 4th, 5th, and 6th, that's Cole Williams, Dylan Basin, and Parker White. Yeah, we'll see if basically make a move. He does have a bit of right side damage, but just to clarify, if you want to spot one of our playoff drivers, such as Parker White in that number 95, you can look for the green banners. Green banners right above the windshield and the green spoiler. You also see him on Nick Miller's car out front, currently sitting third right behind Brody Garner. And we can take a look through the field, see all our how the playoff drivers are running as of right now. So, speaking of playoff implications, Ezekiel Reyes is 4 laps down. So, I'm not even sure if he even started the race. Oh, Glenn Bundren loose.
Glenn Bundren trying to keep that race car straight, and he does off of that corner. Struggled to get that car back straight. And we got a car around. That's Joe Berge. He's got some damage there, and he's going to spin through the grass, try to get back up on the racetrack. There's no full course yellows in this race, so if you go around, it'll be a local yellow, and obviously the drivers around you have to watch out. If you're going to see the replay and see what happened, it came off of this transfer from the road course back to the oval, got into that barrier there that sent him around, and Aaron Marooney Jr. might have had a piece of that as well.
Yeah, I think it did, and that corner is really tough to take because you want to get as close as you can to those tire barriers in order to carry that momentum. It looks like it just caught Joe Berge and caused Aaron Marooney some damage as well.
So early drama, lap 6. Fortunately, none of those were playoff drivers, so that won't affect the points dramatically. But then again, there are so many drivers in this field that are not even looking for a points lead or a championship or any sort of that matter. They're just kind of focusing on showing out in front of all these drivers, making some impressive races, and maybe just racing for the fun of it. As you see Parker White now coming to the back bumper of what looks to be Dylan Basin now. I'm going to get to him as you approach the oval one more time. But like I said, so many other drivers in this series that are just trying to make a statement, just trying to show to these playoff drivers and even everyone else in the field that they can drive a race car and that they are so good on the sim side of things. And Liam Sheen is one of those drivers, currently still in this race lead, has not let up ever since. Brody Garner is going to try and catch back up like he did a couple laps earlier before overshooting that chicane, trying to make that pass. So he's going to try to work that back up. But a lot of drivers still trying to make statements out here tonight.
Yeah, Brody Garner, just little by little, he's been closing that gap on the 36 of Liam Sheen. So we'll see if he can catch by the end of it. But one thing to note is that the fuel run here is going to be about 30 laps. So we are going to, right as I said that, an Ask KBRN question just popped up about the fuel window. So the fuel window here is about 30 to 33 laps. So we are going to one-stop this race, and that's definitely going to shake it up. We're going to see some strategy, maybe a two-tire strategy, or maybe just fuel. That's definitely not out of the picture.
And like you said, the Ask KBRN, of course, if you want to join the conversation with us up in the booth, you can do so using hashtag AskKBRN. You could put hashtag AskKBRN followed by your question, and we'll be sure to answer it just as soon as you send it. We usually do it under the yellow flags, but of course, on a road course race, no full course yellow, so we won't be having to deal with those over the course of this evening. As you see, Cole Williams now starting to approach the back bumper of Nick Miller. Cole Williams, a little conversation about him. He finished second in the Sonoma race earlier today. If you tuned into the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series earlier this afternoon, he finished second, had a really strong run, did not have a lot to fight for, just kind of staying in second place and really trying to hit his marks on the racetrack, and he's been doing so far, and he's also trying to continue that trend into this race tonight. Pretty much a two-car battle there, and then another two-car battle between Basin and Parker White. Now those two are going to spread themselves out as we got a couple battling here. That is Glenn Bundren now. There was Sartaj Mon, and now a couple drivers fighting for position. That's Kadarius Tave there, and I believe Shane DiMantova might be behind them, or it might have been Andy McDowell. I've seen the SPG Esports cars so much. Some of them have a lot of paint schemes, so you kind of get confused just a little bit. But Andy McDowell in this group as well, as now Cole Williams will try to make the pass on Nick Miller. Easily gets it done, so slip the 42 into third place. But Nick Miller might be not going out without a fight, definitely.
Yeah, we've seen it. Cole Williams has been really consistent in pretty much anything that we broadcasted. I think, I want to say a good majority of our broadcasts, he's been in the interview booth with us. Whether it's the LWC NASCAR Cup Series or the Bundren Lawn Care Series. So he slipped himself into third. But back up front, Brody Garner has been closing the gap just little by little.
And he's doing it just like he did it a couple of laps prior. And really, there are just only a sliver of places where you can try to make passes on this racetrack. You saw Brody Garner tried to make a pass. As you see, I believe that's Jackson Hartman down pit road with significant damage. Like, he went around on the racetrack. Yeah, playoff driver who needs those points to get back into this top 7 if he gets cut out of this. Of course, he still needs Talladega, but not a good look for the 19 right now. As you see him, he's approaching the corners here.
Yeah, just trying to fire
gets loose
off.
off the corner, and yeah, it's into this wall, and significant damage. That sends him to pit road. He's going to have to try and get that fixed in time. But like I was mentioning earlier with these top 2 and pretty much passing on this racetrack, there's not too many places to make passes, and you really have to force yourself into some of these corners in order to make some of those passes, because some of the corners aren't very comfortable to approach. You know, there's a good amount of race courses and road courses that have good places where you really keep in mind in order to make passes. You know, you think Watkins Glen in some places, turn 1. You know, you think of the bus stop. That's where you can make a lot of passes. The carousel, maybe those final 2 corners. But here at the Charlotte Roval, there's some places that are more comparable to like the S's at Watkins Glen, where you really don't want to make a pass there because you really don't want to risk anything. You don't want to risk going too wide in a place that can really mess you up if you do it wrong. So I believe that's what Brody Garner's trying to think about right now, as you see him dive into this backstretch chicane, trying to get every edge on the 36, and so far not successful. But you have to really pick your battles when it comes to where you want to pass a car on the racetrack, if you even get close enough, though.
Yeah, definitely. He looked to the inside on the backstretch chicane, but did back out there. But currently sitting third, Cole Williams still in the battle with Nick Miller. He'll look to the inside. We'll see if he can make the pass, but you can go to the inside in one part of the chicane, but you still have another opposite hander there. But Nick Miller takes back third place, but here comes Parker White right behind him.
Looks like Parker White got around the driver he was with in that little couplet. That was Dylan Basin he was with. So now he's got away from that. Now he's starting to approach this top 4 and trying to make a statement for himself and gain some extra points to give a little cushion going into Talladega next week, as Dylan Basin actually went down pit road. We'll see if he might have gone in some trouble like some other drivers have been in. Not sure why, but he is down pit road. So unfortunately, probably not the best situation for that 08. We'll try to take a replay and Looks like he might have had some contact with the wall, but just slowed down there dramatically into those opening corners. And I'm not sure whether something might have happened to that race car. I don't know if it was a technical issue or might have been something along those lines.
I'm sure he's really slow here. I wonder if he... Oh, here we go.
Looks like he was there with Parker White and then, yeah, suffered the same fate that Jackson Hartman did just a couple laps prior. Just gets in loose off of that corner and then goes into that wall. And that can really hurt your race car. And you see him trying to whip it back around without getting into the way of the other drivers on the racetrack. And currently still, Liam Sheen still in command of this race lead. It seems as though this field really spread out here. As you see some drivers going into turn 1 and then exiting going onto the oval on the other side, some of the drivers farther back. So there's Liam Sheen, Brody Garner. Those are the first two on the racetrack. Then Nick Miller, it follows behind him with Parker White as well. Those two drivers are together. There's Cole Williams as well. Those three all bunched up together. And then you look back from Parker White. As you see, Parker White wound got loose. Not sure whether he went around, and looks like he doesn't. I think he was able to save it just in time before he went around on the racetrack there. We'll try to take a replay.
Yeah, we saw him get loose and pointed the camera away. I think he saved it. Yeah, good save by him, keeping it out of that inside wall.
So a very scary moment by Parker White there. Certainly did not want his day to end just like some of the others have. But he's able to save it, keep himself in. But he's lost time to those two up front. Going to try to regain that back up. But behind Parker White, you have a handful of drivers that are still separated. You see the three by himself. You see a bunch of drivers pretty much just working by themselves. You know, lots of separation early in this race. And there's the 30 of Aaron Marooney, who jumped through that curb there. And Aiden Kirker, your Sonoma winner earlier today. He's going to try to look for a better run right now. And then Glenn Bundren. You see a handful of drivers here. There's Glenn Bundren there in the 37. And then Sartaj in the 49. So lots of drivers that are just separated by at least a second or so between each driver. Not many battles on the racetrack right now. And still a bunch of drivers a lap down. Andy McDowell's a lap down. Blaze McKinney is a lap down. Keelan Belsha is 7 laps down currently. Lots of drivers not having good days here on the road course early.
Yeah, not at all, but these two front guys are pretty much staying untouched as of right now. But Brody Garner has gotten a bit of opportunities, or a good handful of opportunities to make that pass, but it's just so hard to complete it around here. Really, he's been trying to do a jump low on the backstretch chicane a couple times. We'll see if he does it again, but looks like he's just waiting for the right moment. And it's good to be patient sometimes.
Yeah, especially with such a longer race like this, you really don't want to use everything up so early in the race. And you really have to be patient with what you're able to do and what you're not able to do early in the running. So you want to try and conserve as much as you can. But Brody Garner is not conserving this battle whatsoever. He is still trying to fight for this race. He's been trying to look at every opportunity, especially that backstretch chicane. He's been eyeing that often. And now he's going to have the run going into turn 1. Liam Sheen trying to block contact between the two. And they both make the corner, but here comes Brody Garner to the inside for the race lead.
We might see some more contact between each other. It looks like they kind of just shoved each other into turn number 1 there, but new leader Brody Garner on lap number 13. We'll see if Liam Sheen can come back from that one. Looking into the corner, is he going to go for a bumper run? He's going to go wide.
Oh, and he's going to hit the outside barrier. Doing so, that's going to allow Nick Miller to catch up, and that battle has dissolved very, very quickly. So there goes Nick Miller, Cole Williams, and Parker White. They'll be trying to make the charge onto Liam Sheen unless he's able to keep it together for the most part. You see him loose off of that corner. And I want to talk about this stretch of track specifically, this little sector right here, especially those last couple of corners before you get onto the oval, before that backstretch chicane. So much elevation change. You're going at the top of the hill off of that turn, and then you have to go all the way down the hill turning left, and then you kind of reach a little point where the elevation kind of straightens out, but you can really get loose off of there, and the car can feel really light. And then you have to really set yourself up for the oval portion where you have to carry that speed and try to get as much speed as you can onto that oval section and fling yourself all the way to the bottom of the racetrack. As you see Nick Miller trying to make the pass on fellow Toyota Camry Liam Sheen, and fellow teammate, he's going to make that easy pass. And on the front stretch chicane, not really anything to worry about there. But such a difficult way to approach those type of corners, and it can really unsettle the car quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing that could unsettle the car is, I think really, the curves from turn 1 to the exit of the roll are really dangerous. Because especially these curves right here in these two corners, number 3 and 4, I believe. If you touch those, you're going to be sent towards the wall. So, and on the opposite end of that, you know, the two chicanes on the racetrack, you want to attack those curves. So that's just something to look out for, especially that curve right there that Liam Sheen just brushed by. That's one of the more critical curves that you really just can't hit.
So these 4 drivers bunched up together. Liam Sheen is now in this mix with Cole Williams and Parker White. So they'll all be battling for position on that end. Brody Garner, meanwhile, has extended his lead ever since he passed that 36 car. He's going to approach some lap cars on the way there. He's going to try to pretty much gap his lead before we get to this pit strategy, if we get to it very, very quickly. You said the fuel run was just about 30 or so laps, so we're going to try to monitor that to see if any drivers try to short pit, maybe make any sort of strategy moves. But one of the drivers Brody Garner is just about to lap once he's getting around this racetrack is the 16 of Henry Tabor. And Henry Tabor really needs a good run tonight. He is out of the playoffs currently if round 1 were to end right now. So Henry Tabor needs a better run than he does right now. Maybe trying another strategy, but currently about to get lapped on the racetrack. Not looking good for the 16. And he is a driver. He's currently the last lead lap driver before you get to a couple of other drivers back there as well. So easy pass going to let him by.
Aiden Kirker's on pit road.
And Aiden Kirker's down pit road. So he might be making a strategy. No damage on that race car, so I don't think anything significant might have happened to that 39. So he's going to go down pit road. I see another driver down there on pit road as well. A couple drivers starting to make strategy work and trying to do something for the end of this race so they can at least gain some position. Not necessarily through cautions because there's no cautions, but try to make it through fuel strategy. That's really the only ways you can pass unless you pretty much have raw speed on the race car and you're able to drive the road course much like Brody Garner and Liam Sheen and Nick Miller and a bunch of these other drivers within this top 5. But then, you know, if you're kind of struggling right now, if you're farther back in the field and you're not really so close on raw speed and raw race car, I should say, in terms of how fast you are on the racetrack, you could try to make that up through this fuel strategy or pitch strategy and try to gain some track position, because as soon as you gain that track position, you can keep it for a long time, especially with the separation of these drivers.
Oh, JJ Hill with damage.
Oh boy,
Another
JJ Hill, another playoff driver in trouble. We've had so many playoff drivers in trouble. We had Jackson Harmon, then we had Parker White almost go in. We saw Henry Tabor getting lapped, and now JJ Hill, who has significant damage to that race car. I think he might have gotten it way earlier than, I'm not sure where.
I think that was prior damage. We're trying to find just where it was, but that guy, that car has turned into a modified. But luckily with the fast repair, it should get all repaired. But and that could go along with the pit strategy some people are choosing, because traditionally the traditional pit strategy here is to make it to about lap 30 and then pit, and then you go to the end. But I think some guys are flip-flopping it because you know, when you pit around lap 30, you have a 10 lap stretch to the end. People are going a bit above a 10 lap stretch, pitting, and then going 30 laps. So it's kind of a flip-flop here, and with those new tires, you're going to gain a lot of time.
Yeah, fresh tires is very crucial here at a road course, and you're going to have a lot of speed. You're going to have a lot of the edge over the drivers in the old tires. You see James Youngman gets passed by the race leaders, but so fresh tires, just like it matters on a 1.5 mile, it very much matters on a road course. Because you have those tires on edge every single turn. You have to really try to get the grip on every corner, try not to get loose. And when you have those fresh tires, you're able to keep the grip through a lot of these corners and stay with a lot of these corners at a higher speed than you would on those older tires, where you have to kind of slow things down and back things up until you kind of run the car out. But some drivers still trying to make that work, and JJ Hill, one of those drivers with damage, so we'll see if he's going to try and get that fixed down pit road anytime soon. But we're approaching this halfway portion of the race. Very, very quick around this road course, and with no yellows, it really helps the situation where pretty much nobody, it's not slowed down for any reason. You don't really have to slow anything down unless you get into a wreck yourself or anything of that matter. So this race is going to go by very quickly, as we got a three-way battle for what looks to be like third with this Liam Sheen, Cole Williams, Parker White, and now we have an approaching driver behind them. Gonna get a good view on who it was. Oh no, that's Henry Tabor, so he is a lap down. Never mind, that will not be the battle. But these three, it's the battling. I think Cole Williams might have some damage on the front end, but now he's gonna might try to make a pass in these couple corners. But these three guys are battling tough.
Yeah, I think that there's front end damage on Cole's car, and then there's rear end damage on Liam Sheen's car. There must have been prior contact that we missed there. But throw these cars under a blanket because they're almost making contact here. But Parker White really has to be safe here because, again, he is a playoff driver, but he is second in points behind Blaze McKinney. And this could be an opportunity to pass Blaze McKinney in points. I'm not sure how far behind he is, behind your points leader, Blaze McKinney, but I would assume that he would be a really good jump. It would get a really good jump heading into the second round after Talladega.
Yeah, he is currently 11 points behind Blaze McKinney. So with Blaze McKinney's run right now, and very struggling run for him, if Parker White can get a good finish out of this and keep himself consistent to where he is right now, he could be a driver that'll be there and take over this points lead going into Talladega next week. As you see, Kadarius Tate gets into trouble. There's James Youngman just letting the guys by and making sure he has no effect into the leaders and not trying to make anything happen. But he's just trying to hit his marks by himself. And yeah, you know, Parker White, if he has this good run and he's able to keep this going without getting into any trouble along the way, he could potentially take over this points lead. And going into Talladega, you want that comfort, you want that cushion, you want to be able to have something to fall back on if you don't have a good race at Talladega. And you know how Talladega is, just so chaotic and so unpredictable, as pretty much everybody there in those top two in that group got over the backstretch chicane. Very, very squirrely, and now they're three wide. Almost contact between Liam Sheen and Parker White. Parker White had to back out of that one. That was a very scary situation for the 95. He had to back out of that one quick. They're going to separate themselves as Kadarius Tate gets by the two. And, oh my goodness, so close between those two. That was three wide in the oval section.
Yeah, Parker White, he was being held up by those guys for a while now, and he just finally said, I'm done. And went three wide, but Liam Sheen spun the tires, almost went down into him, and he had to hit the brakes on that one, so quite literally. So that slides Cole Williams into the third spot, finished second here at Sonoma, or in the LWRC Cup Series. But now it's up to Parker White to try to get by, and that's just another point being added to his possible points lead.
Got a question by LVB down in the YouTube chat while we're still under green. Asks, did I hear correctly that you now have a Twitter? Tell me about it, and will you tweet often? Well, yes, we have launched our Twitter account. It is at KBRN Network. I think it's KBR Network, so no confusion there. Yeah, KBRN Network. That will be our official Twitter, where we'll start to post a lot of updates regarding series that we cover, including the one that we're covering right now, the Bundren Lawn Care Series. I believe one of our first posts, apart from the promo that we released before this race, is pretty much the race winner and how things went down. As Parker White has a little bit of trouble going through the backstretch chicane, he's going to lose a spot to Liam Sheen, but nonetheless still within a car length, as Liam Sheen is so loose off of that corner there. But yes, a new Twitter for the KBueno Racing Network. We're going to try to expand our socials as much as we can, as race leader Brody Garner is down pit road, maybe starting his pit strategy early.
Yeah,
halfway in the race.
Looks like he's going to split it just halfway here. Here comes Liam Sheen as well. But back to Twitter. We'll make sure we have a Twitter sliding graphic next time, just like our Ask KBRN graphics. So we can have our Twitter ad on screen here, but also Aaron Marooney down pit road as well. So these guys are going to try to split it halfway here.
Yeah, this is the key moment if you want to start gaining positions, especially guys if they want to stay out and gain track position off of this. As everyone goes down pit road, Brody Garner is the first out, so he's going to merge back onto turn number 3 and 4. So he'll be the first one out. They're all clear by himself, so nothing to worry about merging back onto the racetrack. And here comes Liam Sheen off pit road, gets that fast repair after having some of the damage and falling back a little bit early. But that'll leave some drivers who might have stayed out, much like Nick Miller, who still hasn't yet hit pit road. He's going to try and get some points for leading some laps. When you lead laps in this race, and when you lead laps in general, you gain points for every lap you lead. And if you lead the most laps, you get that point, and that could really help you, especially if you're Nick Miller on the bubble right now. I think the only fortunate thing for Nick Miller right now is that most of the drivers that he's battling with on the bubble are not having great days. So there's not much to worry about in terms of doing that. But Nick Miller still has to be wary of what he's doing, as Now Cole Williams stays out. He's going to dip down pit road, and pretty much everyone starts to follow in this line.
Yeah, so pit cycles have officially started. Parker White with locking up the brakes going on entry. So, yeah, that's gonna be our pit stops for the day. I guess they're gonna split it halfway. We'll see how Nick Miller gets out of pit road. Cole Williams behind, and we're gonna pay attention to Brody Garner. He passed Nick Miller for the lead, so that'll hand the race lead back to Brody Garner. And he will try to lead the last 20 laps here. Looks like Nick Miller is gonna come out right behind him.
We got a question by Side Drafting Productions down in the YouTube chat. Asks, why is Blaze McKinney out already? He says he just got into watching, just tuned in to the race. But Blaze McKinney, yeah, he did not have a great start. I'm not sure whether he might have had some contact or what have you, might have gotten into trouble in these first opening laps. But Blaze McKinney currently, I believe, 28th, unless he has not fallen position or gained any over the course of the race so far. He is currently 25th right now, 12 laps down, along with Andy McDowell. So those drivers not having good starts early. Not sure whether that might have been a crash, much like we've seen with some other drivers spinning off of some corners and getting damage off of that. But we'll try to monitor that as quickly as we can. As you see, Brody Garner now trying to get around another playoff driver, Preston Cope, who's currently behind that cutoff. He needs a good race as well, but so many drivers in this bubble, so many drivers that really need points are not in good spots right now in this race. As we're in lap number 21, we're going to get to our mid-race report, of course requested by Francisco. Going to ask for a mid-race report and our picks for this race as we start to wind down. But you're looking at the race leader right now, Brody Garner, currently has led the most laps so far. He got past Liam Sheen. It's Kadarius Tables around there in turn 2. Going to spin that back around, but Brody Garner has pretty much led a good chunk of this race now after getting past that 36. Here's a replay of what happened with Kadarius Tabe going into turn 1, approaching turn 2. Might have been getting loose off of turn 1.
I hit the bump. I was talking about that earlier, and it just got sent around there. Luckily, it was out of harm's way.
So we stay green, no full course yellow, but oh close, that was Nick Miller right there. Had to really dodge that one. But yes, your race leader, Brody Garner, currently right now, he started in 3rd, picked up a position after the initial start and got by Nick Miller in the chicane when we started this race. His fastest lap at 1:20.277. He is currently your leader. He's led 7 laps so far. Then you look back to 2nd. There's Nick Miller in the 88, currently on the bubble, 7th right now, 0 points ahead of the drivers on the cutoff. Currently making good out of it right now in 2nd, and he has led a handful of laps with Liam Sheen, but he has not been able to get back up to 1st, but he has been up there within this main group. And you go back to 3rd, the driver who started on pole, Liam Sheen, has led the most laps in this race as 10 right now, but currently in competition with Brody Garner for that spot. But he has lost 2 positions since the drop of the green flag. He's currently 3rd right now. He dropped a couple spots in that first run before going down pit road. He had that damage and his car was not handling the way he wanted to, but currently with that faster pair, he's still in 3rd, keeping himself stable. And then down to 4th, there's Cole Williams, who we talked about a couple of times due to his finish at Sonoma earlier today. Finished 2nd. He's continuing to keep that trend up of road course top 5s, and he's in 4th right now. So a good top 5 run for him if he ends up finishing this race this way. And then you look back to the inside of the top 5. There is Dylan O'Parker, who we haven't talked about pretty much this entire race up until this point. And he's been one of the silent drivers and one of the biggest movers. 14 spots up from where he started. He started 19th on the racetrack, picked all those spots up to be in 5th and where he is right now. And that pit strategy also might have helped him as well. So he is into this top 5.
Right outside the top 5, Aiden Kirker currently 11th, started 6th, moved 5 spots back. He had a 14-second pit stop, so no issues there. And he's currently sitting 6th right now, right outside the top 5. Right behind him, Aaron Marooney. I've seen him race with us a couple times, but yeah, he's with us at the Roval here today, driving for SBG Evo SimSport. Gained 2 spots, started 9th, currently 7th, so in a decent spot right now. In the playoffs, I believe he's the second highest running playoff driver. You can correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm just glancing at my telemetry here. Glenn Bundren currently sitting 8th, gained 2 spots, started 10th in that Bundren Lawn Care machine, driving for, I believe, Peak Performance Motorsports. Right behind him, Parker White. He got a speeding penalty on his pit stop. 55-second pit stop there. When we saw him lock the brakes on pit entry, we just saw him get a speeding penalty over there. So he was currently sitting comfortably in the top 5, but unfortunately got launched out of it and started 6th, currently 9th. So, and riding at your top 10, Sartaj Man, one of the road course ringers, who's with us tonight in that number 49 car, driving for SPG Evo SimSport, started 8th and is currently 10th. So lost 2 spots there and messes up the chicane. At that, he just gave that 10th spot to Caden Atkins.
I was just about to mention Caden Atkins before that happened, but Caden Atkins started 24th. He's gained 14 spots as well, much like Dylan Parker. So he's now into the top 10 for the first time tonight. So he's going to try and keep that up as much as he can. Then you look back to 12th place, where you'll find Mark Love, who really hasn't had the best night. He's been just kind of keeping himself there. He was one of the surprising ones at Chicago last week. He had a very, very great run with that top group, and he was able to keep himself among those drivers and stay fast on where he was. So currently 12th right now in that Victory Junction Camaro ZL1. Changed 17 spots since the drop of the green flag. And then 13th, a driver who did not have the best finish at Chicago last week on the final lap, Mitch Hobbs. Currently 13th. He has gained no spots or lost any spots since the drop of the green flag. He's currently where he started on the grid in that Go Bowling Ford Mustang. Then looking back to 14th, Preston Cope was one of the drivers in this bubble and below the cutoff, and he needs those points to really try to get himself back into this top 7 to stay in this round. Once we exit round number 1 and we go to round number 2, he needs those points in order to get into there and continue fighting for a championship. Currently 14th right now, gained 7 spots since the drop of the green flag. Currently needs a better run than what he has right now, but still trying to work on that. Then 15th, Cole Woody, who has had some great runs and surprising runs over the past couple of races. He almost had a win at Charlotte a couple weeks back, and then Chicago had a promising run. Las Vegas, he's been a part of a lot of Boulder pitch strategies, and he's been able to make it capitalize, and he's been able to make it work sometimes, and luckily has not been having the greatest finishes in this season, but he has a top 3, so not too bad for him right now. He is currently within this top 20, currently 15th. So that pretty much goes over our top 15. Lots of drivers still left in this race, and lots of drivers under a lap, as here are the top 2 on your screen, separated by just a handful of seconds. Brody Garner and Nick Miller, 55, 88, currently together, and then all the way back to Liam Sheen, who's still a bunch of seconds back behind these 2. So halfway portion, we've now reached a good chunk of this race where we can decide which drivers are strong, which drivers have fallen back. Charlie, if there's anyone you're looking at right now for this race win, who do you got your eye on?
Well, the easy answer to this question, just like every week, well, not every week, but the easiest answer right now is Brody Garner, but Nick Miller has been slowly creeping down and decreasing that lead. He went from, I believe, 2 3/10 of a second to now 1 7/10 of a second. So he gained a lot of time in just 1 lap. So I think that we have about 15 laps to go here in this race. I think Nick Miller is going to be close. If not, he will take the win here tonight.
I think if there's any drivers I'm looking at right now, it is definitely the 42 of Cole Williams. I think he has been one of the strongest drivers on the road courses, and like we saw at Sonoma, he's been able to keep himself strong. He's had some good finishes in this series already, so he has that momentum to his benefit. And especially now that we're at a road course and he is kind of at a place where he is very confident in his ability and he's able to keep himself in the top groups. I think after this race, especially if there's any chaos up front, I think Cole Williams might pull out a checker flag. But that could be a strong, bold opinion, considering that this field is so spread out between lots of these drivers. But you never know. Anyone can get into trouble at any point on this track, and we've seen it already. It could happen again.
Yeah, definitely. You can have a mistake-free first 90% of the race, but you can just one hit to the wall is going to end it all for you. So these drivers really have to be careful. But Nick Miller's still creeping up, gained 2/10 on this lap so far. So what the progress that he's making, he could be there to his back bumper at the end.
Currently 12 drivers on this lead lap. The final driver on this lead lap right now is Mark Love. So he is the final driver on this lead lap. Going to try to hold on through these last 13 laps. As you're on board with Brody Garner, going to try to get a lap around this track and see how hard it is to manage a stock car around here. Nick Miller on the backstretch chicane, still trying to catch Brody Garner, and he has been so close. Look how close he's gained over the past couple of corners there, getting loose on the backstretch chicane, and there are lapping Mark Love, who now goes a lap down once again, but slowly approaching this 55 he is through this final 12 laps or so. And as you're going down to crunch time, remember, Nick Miller, I believe he stayed out just a little bit longer than Brody Garner did when Brody Garner started that pit cycle, so he might be on a little bit fresher tires than that 55 right now. And that grip means everything on a track as Henry Tabors around in turn 1.
I think he's just digging a hole for himself further and further at this point. We're going to go ahead and get a replay there. I don't know if he hit the curb this time. Oh, just lost it going into turn 1. Yeah, that downshift can really kill you. But, wow, it just comes to a stop. I believe he gets it rolling, but no excess damage. I spoke too soon on that one.
Did some damage there on the front end, and when you slip it into first gear, the revs can really unsettle the car, and you can kind of wheel hop through that corner, and then you're trying to get into first gear, and then the car just drops from under you, and then the car can really send you around with you not in control whatsoever, just being a passenger waiting for something to happen. Luckily, not too hard of a contact for the 16, but he lost a lot of spots there, and he's going to try and regroup and try to muster what he has right now. Not a good look for lots of playoff drivers tonight. I was not expecting so many playoff drivers to be in trouble, especially drivers like Blaze McKinney, who's been so strong at this racetrack, and, you know, some other drivers, and Preston Cope, I thought he might have had a better run. I was expecting Glenn Bundren to keep where he was. You know, J.J. Hill in trouble, Jackson Hartman also in trouble, Henry Tabor, and just so many drivers who have not had good runs. Ezekiel Reyes, who didn't even start in this race, so he's going to drop a couple points next week. So lots of hard hits for lots of, and Keelan Belshon as well. I forgot to mention him. He's 28 laps down, currently 25 laps down. He's 28th on the racetrack. Very, very tough for lots of playoff drivers, and it's a hard hit. This could potentially shake up everything going into Talladega next week.
Yeah, this round, this first round is really gonna make or break your playoff run, and I know it's just the start, but we went to Chicago, and that's really a toss-up. We saw a lot of pack racing there, and it's almost like watching a super speedway race. That one was really dependent on track position and saving your tires. But here's the Roval right here. This one's another really big toss-up. As you see, you know, a lot of the guys who haven't raced a lot of races this season show up, like Brody Garner, Dylan Parker, Aiden Kirker, all those guys. They're showing up and having good runs here. Also Talladega, yet another toss-up, and we're going to see a lot of teamwork that week. So that's going to be a lot of fun for us to cover, and we'll see who comes out on top. But speaking of the gap here for the lead, Nick Miller has decreased it to just under half a second.
And we're now at the 10 lap to go mark. So this is crunch time for these top two, especially Nick Miller, if you want to get a win and secure some good points going into Talladega next week to secure a top 7 spot going into the next round and continue to fight for a championship this season. As a bunch of lap cars are starting to play into factor, the Brody Garner has to get around. You saw Nick Miller get around Glenn Bundren there just a couple corners ago, and now they're going to have to fight through Sartaj, who's just going to let them by, and Jackson Hartman up there. So easy for Nick Miller and Brody Garner to get around those lap cars. They easily let them by, and they got some courtesy for these drivers who are in contention for this win. But Glenn Bundren on those fresh tires, he's going to try to fight back under Nick Miller. Easily gets that spot. That might put the gap between the top two even larger.
Yeah, definitely. But between those first couple corners of that lap, Nick Miller has opened the gap to an entire second. So all that progress that he was slowly making throughout that run is now been thrown into the dumpster here by these lap cars. So it's tough for him. But I believe Brody Garner slipped up in that corner. We'll see. We'll see. Only 10 laps to go here.
The thing about this road course is that you have so many corners that there is at least one of these corners that has a probability of you messing up, you getting loose, or something of a driver error, and that could pretty much shrink the gap between a driver and the driver behind them, especially when it comes to these leaders. When you have a little screw up there, when you have a little mess up there, when you have something go wrong in one corner, you maybe overshoot, maybe you get loose off the corner, maybe you have a very scary moment where the car almost sends it around and you almost get damaged from something. you have to start worrying, because then a driver that has a better corner than you can just start easily chipping into that lead. As now you see Glenn Bundren on those fresh tires is going to try to get around Brody Garner for position. We'll see if Brody Garner is able to let him by, or just continuing to keep him behind him to make sure that Nick Miller does not get by. But nonetheless, the 37 gets that spot around, so he's going to try and work himself back around. So now it shrinks the lead back between these top two. Nick Miller still has a little bit of time to make up to get to this race leader, but I don't think those lap cars really made an effect on anything. I think he is continuing to still be in pursuit of this 55, and as we approach 8 laps to go, this is crucial for a driver still in the bubble, as so close between Brody Garner and Nick Miller, and Glenn Bundren, who messed up that backstretch chicane. Now just a car length or two between these top two now.
Yeah, that really shrunk it up. That's not what Brody Garner wants to see, but here comes Nick Miller for the race lead. To his left side, we'll see. He's going to have the optimal line going into this corner. Almost contact between them. He's going to give it up. Brody Garner maintains the lead.
So just 8 laps to go, and now the leaders are right together. Third place, Liam Sheen, is a little bit too far back to contend for this, but nonetheless, if he stays there, top 3 will be good for him for the pole sitter. But this is the battle for the race lead. You see Nick Miller trying to use those curves. You're on board with him right now, and Media onboard cam, trying to get to your race leader, Brody Garner. I think he's had the better second sector of this racetrack as opposed to in this first sector. He's gained a couple tenths off of some of these corners, but I think the backstretch chicane is really where he's gained a lot, and where he's been able to kind of reel in Brody Garner a little more, as now to the back bumper he goes onto the oval section. So close, almost contact.
Yeah, I would have put out of the picture Nick Miller moving in for the win, because he needs these points. He's 0 points to go. He's literally on the cut line right now, and I can't express that enough. He needs these points coming to Talladega, because the max points that you can get in a race is I believe 30. So you know, if by winning the race and I don't know what I'm saying. He needs these points. He basically needs a cushion going into Talladega next week, because if he wrecks out in DNFs, it's not going to be good for his playoff run.
So here he goes. He's going to try another attack on Brody Garner, and the crossover into the chicane. New race leader, Nick Miller, now into the race lead. He's going to lead some laps and try to take over that for the points lead. Brody Garner took over the most laps led, and now Nick Miller is going to try to do it in this final stint of the race. So 6 laps remaining in this event. Nick Miller to the race lead. This will definitely help him immensely if he's able to pick up a win tonight here at the Charlotte Roval, but he's got a little bit of fighting to do with the driver right behind him. Even though Brody Garner let up that spot, he's definitely not going to let up for competition.
Yeah, definitely. Brody Garner sent it into that corner. Nick Miller slow, and back to the inside for the race lead. Here he goes. Will he take it back?
So close, but they're keeping it clean. Brody Garner now to the inside. He takes back the race lead. Another lead change, but we'll see if Nick Miller will try to send it into the backstretch chicane and try to get some of that passing opportunity to his benefit. Hard braking into the final chicane, the second final chicane, I should say. And almost to the back bumper, still together, these two.
We're going to approach 6 laps to go here, and yeah, that was really odd. Going up the hill, it seems like he just slowed down. I don't know if he had to slow up because he was about to get a penalty, because if you cut the course, you have to give up some of the time that you gain. So I don't know if that happened to Nick Miller. Almost spun out right there, but 6 laps to go here at the Charlotte Roval.
And just an update, pretty much the top 10 are pretty much on the lead lap. I believe everyone behind 11th are a lap down or more. So lots of drivers set a lap down under this race, but currently the focus is on these top 2 to make something happen, as they are still right alongside each other, still trying to get something out of the other. And Nick Miller is now on the chase once again. He had a little bit of a hiccup on one of those corners. He got a little bit loose. That lost him a little bit of time, but now you really have to start worrying about trying to catch up, because if you don't catch up within these next couple of corners and within these final laps, you could easily just slip away a checkered flag. But I don't think that's what Nick Miller is really thinking about right now, because a win is great, but even second place is just so much points to your case. And for Nick Miller, if you get a second place position right now, if you finish second, if you get those points, if you try to extend to lead more laps, and if you have that advantage, you're able to give yourself a good feeling, because he's going to gain those points and he's going to be above this top 7 because so many drivers have been in so much trouble that they're going to fall back, and Nick Miller is going to be able to gain regardless of a win or not. So you might want to be thinking about that if you're the 88, but slowly trying to reel in the 55 as we got 5 laps to go still in this race.
Gap is under a second now. I'm going to keep monitoring that. I'll keep updating you guys throughout this last 5 laps of this race, but it's all to Nick Miller. He just has to hit his marks, but we are coming up on lap traffic. That's probably going to shake it up. We saw Glenn Bundren shake up the lead on the backstretch chicane, but right now, Brody Garner has 2 lap cars right ahead of him. We'll see how he attacks it.
Those drivers are playoff driver Jackson Hartman and then James Youngerman. Those drivers are a handful of laps down, and then there's some other drivers in front. There was Glenn Bundren I saw, but he's on the fresh tires, so he will continue to stay up front in front of these top 2. So I don't think he'll play an effect. It'll most likely just be Jackson Hartman and James Youngman. We'll see if they end up letting these leaders by, much like Sartaz did going into 3 and 4, or where you just let them by and just try to stay out of the way of these top 2 in the battle for the race lead. But it's all dependent on what these drivers will do, especially for Jackson Hartman. And they're approaching these drivers right now, as I believe the gap closed just a little bit more down the backstretch chicane. So Nick Miller just having a better final sector in this race right now, and on this track he's been able to gain time through the backstretch chicane and through these final corners. That seems to be the money spot for that 88, and as you see him close a little bit more time now, and now the lap cars will start to play an effect, so we'll see how that works out. But Brody Garner still in the lead with 4 laps remaining.
Jackson Hartman being a courteous driver, let him by, and he will go yet another lap down. But yeah, Nick Miller, I think he's really good on the oval section of the racetrack. He do that last part of that last lap, he gained half a second on that 55 car. So yeah, I think, you know, one of these guys is good at one portion of the track and the other is good in the other portion of the racetrack. So yeah, it really comes down to if you mess up your portion, the other guy affects his portion. So lots of portion talk here, just 4 laps to go.
And there's the lap car, James Youngerman. I think he's just going to let them by, much like Jackson Hartman did. So he's going to give the outside and allow that inside line for the top 2 leaders. And they're going to try to get themselves around, as Nick Miller might be approaching James Youngerman at the worst spot through the chicane. He might have to hold on to that pass or just a little bit longer until after the chicane. And it looks like he's going to try to get around him to the back bumper, and he's not able to do it. And there's the pick for the 80 of James Youngman. That is going to help the 55 immensely. Just the wrong place and the wrong time for Nick Miller.
Yeah, I just got stuck behind him on the backstretch chicane, so that's unfortunate for him. But the gap really hasn't changed. In fact, it actually decreased. I don't know if Brody Garner really got a bad exit or something, but that gap really hasn't opened up. So I guess Nick Miller can just keep trying to chip away at it, and maybe he can pull away with it. Or maybe Brody Garner can pull away with it.
We'll just have to see in these final 3 laps. If you look back to 3rd, Liam Sheen has been there the entire time, currently by himself in turn 1 and 2. So lots of time between him and the top 2 leaders. I don't think he's thinking about a top 2 finish. I think he's just trying to conserve a top 3 for as long as he can. He's got a good gap between him and 4th place behind him.
Oh.
And you see a couple drivers still there. Dylan Parker is now into 4th. Cole Williams slipped back to 5th. So still a good gap between a handful of those drivers. But you're still looking for the battle for the race lead. And I think Nick Miller might have lost a couple of tenths through that last lap there. We'll see if he gains any through this section, like he has been so close a couple of times. And I believe they're approaching lap cars once again. So I believe that's Caden Atkins and Glenn Bundren there, who are the lap cars, and we'll be trying to play into effect. Glenn Bundren was on that with those fresher tires, but I think now with those older tires, just trying to fend off for what he has right now with Caden Atkins, the 2 Peak Performance Motorsports drivers, both together. And now Brody Garner will try to creep up on these guys and see if he can get around them very cleanly without losing any time.
Yeah, the 2 and the 37 are both fighting for position, but obviously they have to give a little bit of courtesy to these leaders here. But Caden Atkins goes wide. That's going to give Brody Garner an easy pass. We'll see if Nick Miller gets caught up behind another lap car again. But The gap has closed once again, under 0.8 of a second. Looks like Caden, yeah, it looks like he's going to let him by.
And if you're Nick Miller, you have to close and you can't let up this time. He had those laps where he gained time and then he lost it, but you can't have that if you want the race to win. You can't let up anymore. You have to keep where you are. You have to gain, or if you're just where you are, you have to stay stagnant and not lose any time, because if you lose time, that is not going to be good for you whatsoever. And Nick Miller going to try to continue to gain time and try to be in pursuit of that 55 down the backstretch chicane. He gained a good amount of time there, but I think hitting that curve might have slowed him down just a little bit. So back to the pursuit, and I think Caden Atkins might be trying to gain on the 88. Doesn't look to be the case now, but as we approach this final chicane, white flag will be displayed for the 55 of Brody Garner. We'll see if he's able to keep his lead from now on until the checkered flag. White flag for Brody Garner one more time around the 2.28 mile road course.
A very consistent day. Started second, got the lead, lost it for just one lap, and got it back from Nick Miller. So a very consistent day for that number 5 Dogecoin. Sevi Camaro. He does have those Red Line Racing League playoff banners that you see that red on above his windshield and the spoiler. We're actually going to be broadcasting that league next season Thursday nights. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, lots of good news. You saw those Red Line Racing banners, and we're proud to announce that we'll be covering the next season of the Red Line Racing League and the Cup Series from there on out when they start their next season and finish up the one they're currently in right now and get this championship underway. And then once they start up the new season at Daytona, we'll be sure to bring you all the coverage on those Thursday nights. But right now, we're trying to cover the battle for this race lead. Nick Miller still far behind. He's been trying to gain time on every corner, and again, on the curves. I don't think he has enough time to get this done. Brody Garner has now put on another good gap, and he hasn't let up ever since the drop of the green flag. Down to the final corners for the final time. Down the front stretch chicane through the final 2 corners. It'll be Brody Garner, a first win of the season for Brody Garner, the 55 car. He gets it done at the Charlotte Roval.
A very, very consistent day to that number 55 car. Well deserved in his Dogecoin machine. Nick Miller comes home second. That's a good points day for him as well. So congratulations to Brody Garner. He'll make his way around to the front straightaway, and he'll probably burn it down there.
Liam Sheen will finish in third. A bunch of drivers still left to cross the finish line as Brody Garner burns it down in turn 3 and 4 where the space is there, and he's able to burn down the tires. His first win this season, and like we saw earlier today at Sonoma, first-time winners. That is the motto today. A first-time winner with Aiden Kirker earlier today, and a first-time winner with Brody Garner tonight at the Charlotte Roval. We're going to take a look at your results and see exactly where everyone finished. Of course, you're looking at the race winner there. Brody Garner finishes first. Nick Miller finishes just shy of the race win, 2.6 seconds behind, finishes in second. Liam Sheen, another SPG esports driver, he finishes in third after starting on the pole. And then there's Dylan L. Parker, finishes fourth. Cole Williams finishes in this top 5. And then goes Aaron Marooney into 6th. Parker White 7th. Aiden Kirker 8th. Glenn Bundren, a playoff driver, 9th. Caden Atkins finishes 10th, as we saw those two battling for position before the end of the race.
Right outside the top 10 here, Mark Love, haven't raced with us in a while, in that 0535 car finishes 11th. Sartaj Man, road course trainer, finishes 12th. Cole Woody in that 014 car finishes 13th after finishing up front in the last couple oval races. Preston Cope in that number 47 finishes 14th. Jackson Hartman 15th. James Jungleman finishes 16th. Henry Tabor, another playoff driver, 17th. JJ Hill, going to lose a bit of points above the cutoff there, finishes 18th. Mitch Hobbs, 19th, and Kadarius Tave, 20th.
Then back to 21st is Alfred Vasseur, finishes 23 laps behind the race leaders. Then Dylan Basin, after a tough running and hitting the inside wall off of turn 4. And Joe Berge finishes 23rd after clipping the barrier there right to the oval transfer section. He finishes 23rd. Andy McDowell, 24th. Points leader Blaze McKinney takes a hard hit, 25th. Here, 33 laps down. Then there goes Lane Stevens, Peter Kenny, Keelan Belsha, and then starts the drivers who pretty much barely started this race, Ezekiel Reyes and Austin J. Smith finishes 30th. And then there's Sean Dobson, who finishes 41 laps down. He is the final driver rounding out this field. A win for Brody Garner here. We got more coverage coming next. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with KBRN Post coverage brought to you by SDC. We'll have the interviews with the top three, and of course your race winner, Brody Garner. So lots of congratulations to him. We'll be right back. You're watching the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Charlotte Roval here on the KBueno Racing Network. Tonight, the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series heads to the only road course where anything can happen. Welcome back to the Charlotte Roval, and welcome to the start of KBRN post-race coverage brought to you by SDC. Your winner, Brody Garner, takes his first of the season. We're going to go to Victory Lane and get an interview with him to see how he feels about picking up a win here at the road course. We're going to bring him in. And Brody, of course, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us, first of all?
Yep.
All right, Brody, well, you pretty much were one of the most dominant drivers in this field. Apart from Nick Miller and Liam Sheen, you had a good fight with both of those drivers over the course of this race. And that last battle with Nick Miller certainly was a lot of fun to watch. Tell us how you feel taking this win tonight after battling with those drivers and pretty much leading a good portion of this race.
Oh, it feels good. Both of those drivers are really good at this track and just really good in general. And it was good to battle with them. And it was one of the hardest races I've ever drove, trying to save fuel and keep in front of Nick. It was it's a very good feeling.
And there were so many obstacles you had to face going through this road course. Of course, every single corner, every different challenge each time around. And of course, trying to fend off Nick Miller, getting around those lap cars, trying to keep your distance. Was there really anything notable that you found in the car within those final laps, trying to fend off Nick Miller, or anything you might have found a little bit different, anything you might have possibly done differently to keep Nick Miller off your tail?
I think I just saved tires a little bit because I was saving fuel in the beginning of that run, and I think it really helped after I got back by Nick because he was never really able to get right back up to my bumper again for like the whole lap. So I think it was just saving fuel ended up helping me in the very end.
You had the fuel, you had the tires, and you had the will to win, and you take your first win here in the season, the Bundren Lawn Care Series. Before we let you go to celebrate your first victory this season, you got any shout-outs or any teams, any people you want to thank for making tonight's effort go down?
Blue Chew Americas are my road racing team. I would not be the same driver today if I wasn't on their team. Thanks to Dan Neese, the owner, for running the team, and thanks to Glenn for running the series.
All right, Brody, we're going to let you celebrate and take care of business there on your first win in this season. We congratulate you on a great performance here at the Roval. We hope to see you at Talladega next week and further installing yourself through the rest of this season and putting on some great runs.
Yep, I'll be there. Thank you.
Brody Garner out of there. I think we might have got him a little bit early, but nonetheless, still lots of thanks to Brody Garner putting on a great show. But right behind him, the driver who finished just short, but must be happy with the reward he picked up with all those points going into next week at Talladega. Driver on the bubble, Nick Miller. Charlie, you have the interview.
Into the booth. Nick, you got a copy?
Yes.
Well, Nick, a very consistent day for you turned into a top 2 finish there, but I have to ask, you did take the lead momentarily from Brody Garner, and it looks like he just snatched it right back from you. Just tell me, as a whole, how did this race go for you?
The first run we fell back a lot, like 6, 7, 8 seconds back. But I guess Brody and Liam were battling so much that they burned their tires up, and I was able to get back at them. And the second run, I burned my tires up, but I figured Brody wouldn't have made it on fuel because I was only a lap to the good crossing the line, so I figured there's no way he could make it. So I didn't really be as aggressive, and then it turned out he could make it. But I honestly think I would have had it won if JJ Hill didn't pull his whatever, and I had to stop because you don't get like specific directions as the spotter, and they just kind of said there's a car wrecked in front, so I didn't really know where to go, so I just stopped and allowed Brody to get back around me.
All right, well, Nick, a second place finish for you today translates to a lot of points. I believe you're going to sit pretty comfortably going into Talladega next week, and obviously Talladega is quite the toss-up. So, what's the strategy going into there?
Probably to survive. I don't know. I have some practice from Ice Car, but we'll see.
All right, well, Nick, thank you for coming out here and racing us in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. Playoff first number 2 at the Roval, but we hope to see you next week. But before I let you go, do you have any teams or any parties that you want to thank before we send you off?
SPG. Thank Liam for earlier showing me how to run this track because I was terrible earlier today. I figured it out, and that's about it.
All right, well, we'll see you next week, man, and we wish you the best of luck.
Yep, thank you.
When deciding himself outside of the booth, very consistent day, turned into a top 2 finish, started second, finished second. So, we're going to go ahead and get our final interview of the night here. Liam Sheen finishes 3rd after qualifying on the pole. Got a, up and down day for him, headed to trackside.
And Liam, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us, first of all?
Wait, what? Sorry.
Okay, it's Kenneth in the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us?
Yeah, I got a copy.
All right, Liam. Well, you are the second of the SPG cars to finish in this top 3. You started on pole. It's your first race since Homestead, and you ran a really consistent race. You fell just a little bit farther back the field, of course, through that first run, but ever since that second run started and the pit cycle started to take place, you started to gain yourself back and stayed in 3rd. Tell us how that race went behind the wheel and really battling with those guys in that first group early on in the race.
Our SPG Camry was it was real. I was really quick like throughout the. I'm just shocked that I set that lap in qualifying like 5/10 over everyone else. That was absurd. And then I pulled a decent gap early on in the race, but then on the front stretch I had a little bit of a mess up and I hit a turtle or something. That must have hurt something mechanically with the car, or ruined or hurt the steering or something, because it just never wasn't quite the same ever since then. But overall, once Brody got to me, I put up a little bit of a fight, but I knew he was way quicker, and I just tried to hang on, maybe try to get to the pit stop or something. But I knew it just wasn't worth it. And then when my teammate caught up to me, I just let him have it. And the 42 and 95, I had to race them hard for to keep 3rd. I didn't want them pulling too far away from me, because once I stayed in there, once I got to, when I got it's like lap 18, once I was still like within a second of them, I knew, okay, I can pit now, and then I can pull like a 10-second gap or something. But overall, I had to, I was being way more careful, and I was way quicker in the second run of the race. And then late in the race, me and Brody were super tight on fuel, so I had to actually run the last lap in 4th gear. So it was a pretty fun race. Obviously, I was looking for the win, just wasn't quite quick enough. And yeah.
And obviously track position so important here at the Charlotte Roval. And you were mentioning the fuel saving and that you and Brody were tight on fuel and tried to save your car as much as possible. Do you think there was anything differently you probably could have done that probably could have made you a little bit more comfortable through that final run to contend with those top 2 and stick with them in the final laps of the race?
It was lost ever since they pulled a 10-second gap right before the pit stop. If I could do it over, I'd be way more careful and save way more in the first run. But once I hit that turtle, Brody, Nick, and maybe the 42 and 95 had a way they were just way quicker than me, and I just had to hang on. Maybe did a little bit better of a job blocking. Maybe this and that, here and there, like with the tire saving and just being more careful, then maybe I would have had a shot at it and stay up there. But yeah, it's thinking way too early, just thinking current lap by lap instead of the whole picture here. And yeah, maybe just work on that for next time. I'm not sure if this league goes to any more road courses, but I'll try to pop up here and there.
Well, a great one for you regardless, and of course for your SPG and Evo SimSport teammate, Nick Miller, who is now finishing second. He gained those points. He's going to be good into the playoffs going next week at Talladega. But before we let you go, Liam, you got any shout-outs or any teams, any drivers, anybody else you want to thank for making tonight's effort possible?
Well, shout out to Nick Miller. I know he wasn't really necessarily quick going into today. He was like running 21s, and he picked up way quicker, like really quickly. So, I mean, shout out to him with his, pickup. And obviously got to thank Evo and SPG for, having me on their team, and you guys for broadcasting, and Glenn Bundren for the league.
We thank you for putting on a great show here at the Roval. It was a lot of fun to watch you scramble with a lot of the top 5 and the leaders up there, and of course you starting on pole. So we thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and we hope to see you through these next couple races. I know it's been a while since you ran in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. Your last start was at Homestead, but regardless, we'd love to see you in these next couple of races and putting up some good laps and good performances out there.
Thanks.
Liam Sheehan out of the booth. He is the final driver for the interviews and our post-race coverage. He finishes the top 3, and that pretty much wrapped things up from here at the Roval, the only road course race this season. It was a one and done. We have this over with. Next week, though, in the focal point, Talladega, and that is a chaotic track in its own right. And Charlie, you and I know that Talladega can bring the best and the worst, and it can bring a lot of unpredictability, especially when it comes to these playoffs. And since we had so much unpredictability here tonight, do you think that it'll continue on through the rest of the season, especially as we cut down the round and eliminate the 3 drivers in the first round?
Yeah, and as we advance to the playoffs, the competition is only going to get tighter. I'm really excited to advance to these playoffs, but this first round is definitely the most chaotic one that I've really seen. In really any league. We went to Chicagoland, that's a toss-up. Roval, that's another toss-up. Talladega, that's another toss-up. So, yeah, I can't wait to advance to these rounds, and it'll come down to the end of it, but it's going to be really exciting to watch these guys duke it out for it.
And you'll see the schedule shown on the front of your screen. We're going to mention it at the top of the broadcast, but technical difficulties kind of limited us to talking about that. But next race, of course, is Talladega. After tonight's race at the Charlotte Roval, then goes Martinsville Speedway, which will be one of the short tracks that we see this season. Then goes Martinsville, and then we head out to Auto Club, which will also be one of the largest tracks we visit apart from the super speedways and Michigan. That'll be a race number 14, and then Bristol will be the final race before the final 3 drivers are cut off, and we leave ourselves with the championship 4 to fight for the championship at Phoenix Raceway. Lots of fun here in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. We appreciate you watching and sticking with us through this race. I know we had some technical difficulties to work through, but nonetheless, we appreciate every single one of you for tuning in and watching our race tonight for the Bundren Lawn Care Series. And for Glenn Bundren, for all the drivers in this series, for everyone that makes this the way it is, and for everybody that makes this possible. For all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Baier, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying good night from the Charlotte Roval. We head to Alabama next week, where things will get chaotic in the playoffs, and we say good night from Charlotte.